There we go. We're officially recording now. Okay, awesome. So my name is Milton Anthony. I work for SalesLabX here in Austin, Texas. We are certified Salesforce partners, so we work very closely with them. But we are vendor agnostic, so we support all sorts of tools. I am a strategy specialist here. I support Pardot and Salesforce and full B2B, mostly tech stack. So things like ZoomInfo, Clearbit, Apollo. What are some other big ones that people love these days? SalesLoft, Outreach.io. I am in Austin, Texas. And most of us are in Austin, Texas. So if you haven't come down to Austin, please come on down. And if you are in Austin, I am near South Congress. So let's grab a drink. So we're a little unique at SalesLabX because we have a subscription service. We don't do project-based work or hourly work. We think that's the wrong incentive for the modern sales tech stack and sales processes. So we actually have a subscription model where we do tech stack orchestration, conversion optimized design, attribution modeling, training, onboarding, offboarding users, basically helping you with your whole sales and marketing journey for one flat fee every month without ever having to worry about hourly rates or project-based work. I never actually understand how people come up with those hours. It sounds like it's all made up most of the time. So that's what we do. And because of that, we're kind of in a unique position where at any given moment, we're actively managing tens of millions of leads and contacts for accounts around the world. Mostly with what we call extended sales cycle and multiple decision makers. So, you know, not something that you just buy on a whim, but they consider a considered purchase. So that's kind of our core area of competency, using these tools in a sales cycle that's a little bit longer. We would say above 90 days. Sometimes a lot of our accounts are years or 6 or 7 months. And multiple decision makers, think ABM, think you have to work through the individual contributor to go get to a leadership model, etc. Shameless pitch. I will be teaching a masterclass on Pardot and its integration with Salesforce on early bird registration ends on April 14th, 23. Please come on in. Yeah, awesome. And then let's get started now that we got all of that out of the way. Jessica, come on. You're Jessica with the pitch early. Thanks, Jessica. I see a couple of graduates in here. So we're going to get started. Today, we're going to go over attribution models, what the differences are, automating attribution. A lot of times I go into organizations and they're still begging sales reps to add campaigns to opportunities or to contacts or leads. Surprise. If they don't have an economic incentive to do that, most people don't do that. That's the system we live in. So we're going to talk about how marketing or ops can automate that process to get a higher coverage amount. Because even if you have really good sales reps that are disciplined and SDR teams that are aligned to marketing, etc., people just forget. People don't know. A lot of times when I'm filling out a form, it'll say, how have you heard of us? I hate that question because like I have source amnesia. I don't know fake news from AI generated news. I think the Pope was wearing that jacket that he was wearing. So I want to make sure that the data is automatically recorded in the back. So we're going to talk about automating attribution. We're going to talk about sales responsibilities. This is a big thing. We can automate a lot of it, but a lot of it is still going to depend on sales. A lot of times what we see is people get, and I know we have a lot of Salesforce reps on here, so I'm going to try not to bust on them too much. You spies, send us some leads. But a lot of times you see these demos and you see these things and you think a lot of this is automatic and it's a lot of marketing and ops responsibilities. There's a lot of sales responsibilities that if you don't do properly, that potentially could be a black hole for attribution. So we're going to talk about what sales needs to do. Maybe if we have time, we'll talk about how to get sales buy-in on that. And then we'll talk about how to hold them, how to trust them, but verify that they're doing it. And then maybe how to automate some of those sales responsibilities too. Cool. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And if I say something that resonates with you, feel free to drop an emoji on the bottom. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. So we're going to talk about Salesforce reporting today. We're going to use Salesforce campaigns. We're going to use UTM's lead source roughly. And then we're going to talk about leads and contacts. Okay. Because this is an hour and probably 45 minutes are me going off on a side tangent about something I saw on Reddit, I am not going to be able to go deep into everything. I'm going to give you a cursory overview. And if you want to talk more, feel free to set up a one-on-one session with me afterwards. So this is what I'm going to go over. I am going to try to zoom in and zoom out as much as I can, meaning I'm going to give you the concept that we're trying to solve. I'm going to try to get into as many details as I can, but obviously I'm not going to get into all of it. So I'll try my best though. I want to start off by talking about something, talking about a basic structure of how Salesforce works. A lot of y'all might already know this, but I want to talk about it so that everybody's on the same page. I do have a comically large water bottle that I drink out of, exactly to stay hydrated. So excuse me. Okay, so let's talk about how Salesforce attribution works in the first place. It can be kind of confusing because you have leads, you have contacts, you have opportunities, you have accounts, you have all these really weird nomenclature. You know, I'm still understanding the difference between a tall and a venti at Starbucks. So some of these things are very hard to kind of get your mind around, and the trailhead sometimes doesn't help. So let's start with a refresher course on how all of these different things talk to each other. So let's talk about this. I'm going to talk about Pardot a lot here. Not a lot, sometimes. That's Salesforce's marketing automation tool. They rebranded it to account engagement, but the same idea works for HubSpot or Marketo or anything like that. Okay. So first, what's going to happen is somebody's going to come. I won't be able to attend the entire. Yeah, I will. They will share the recording, but stay. Cancel your next meeting. What's more important than this? Come on. Okay. So the first thing that's going to happen is someone's going to come into your marketing automation platform, and it's going to track their UTM parameters. Basically, what that means is what was the source that drove that website tracking? Okay. So was it a Facebook ad? Was it a LinkedIn ad? Was it an organic social media post? Those are usually tracked in UTM parameters. For today's conversation, we're not going to go deep into the UTM parameter conversation. That's a whole nother core area of proficiency. I would love to talk about that too. Maybe if we have some time in the after the end today. But first touch traffic source, that's usually tracked on the UTM parameter field in Pardot and or in Salesforce. Okay. And I'll show you a quick cursory on how that looks on the Pardot side, just so you know. Let me go to an example here. My favorite example, myself. So if you look at this Pardot prospect record, and you go all the way to the bottom, there's this field right here. That's called Google Analytics. This is where your UTM parameters are being stored. Am I not sharing my Pardot screen? Oh, hold on a second. Let me stop and let me share again. Oh, so many people. Maybe that's why. Okay, your entire screen. Do you see my Pardot screen now? Thank you. Yes, thank you. Kenshaw State University Marketing Group. So this right here is the Google Analytics section in Pardot. Okay. Something to keep in mind is that this by default is first touch attribution. What does that mean, Milton? Great question, Brian. I'm just calling out names. So what that means is, imagine if you run a Google ad and then somebody clicks on that Google ad, they come to your website or a Pardot landing page. They get immediately cookied, even if they don't fill out a form or anything. Okay? So they see a Google ad, they immediately get cookied. Now, a year later, they see a Facebook ad, they click on it, and they fill out that form now, that request a demo form, that request a quote form, etc. The attribution on here is going to be from what they clicked on a year ago, because that was the first time they ever interacted with a cookie, with your website, with your brand. Okay? Now, a lot of times, what's going to happen is this is going to be blank. There's a couple of reasons that can be blank. One, you're not adding UTM parameters correctly. Two, your cookie tracking is in place properly. Three, there's a bunch of reasons, but three is I want you to think about. A lot of times that is accurate. Think about your own workflow, right? You see an ad on Facebook. A lot of times people don't click on that ad. They go to Google and then they type in that brand name. And then so it's going to show up as organic, or they're going to go directly to that website. So since I'm looking at millions of dollars of ad spend every year, I've seen direct correlations between ad spend and organic traffic go up, right? So basically, it's not always, attribution is half science, half art. So don't count on that being 100% accurate every time. If it's blank, that doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong. Okay. I know I said I wouldn't go into UTM parameters too much, but I did. Am I back on the slide? Okay. No. Cool. Now, at some point, this is going to convert into a lead in Salesforce. Okay. So someone's going to decide that it hits the MQL criteria, or, you know, it hits a scoring threshold and it's going to be sent to sales as a lead. Give me a second. Let me see what's going on with my camera here. You know what? Let's see. Okay, cool. It's going to get sent to Salesforce as a lead. This is where multi-touch attribution starts, when it gets sent to Salesforce as a lead. There's a lot of debate about whether leads should go into Salesforce before it's MQL'd or after it's MQL'd. That's going to be different from org to org. But just remember, till it's in Salesforce, the multi-touch attribution on the campaign side, the Salesforce campaign side, doesn't start. Cool. So now we're going to get added to Salesforce. And then now those leads are going to get added to Salesforce campaigns. When this lead is converted into an opportunity, then that campaign gets credit for that opportunity. Those opportunities where all revenue data lives. So if your sales reps aren't managing opportunities, they're not, I'll talk about that in some potential points of failure here. But this is why it's very important, no matter if you're in ops or marketing or what your role is, you have to get a good understanding of the sales process and the sales pipeline management process. This is why on a lot of the plans that I'm on our subscriptions, I'm in pipeline reviews with a lot of sales leadership, right? Because I want to get in the weeds. If my revenue attribution depends on you doing your opportunity part right, I want to be in there right? On our plans, we have guaranteed ROI, and the only way we can guarantee ROI is if opportunities are being created, right? And they're being created early enough. So that's that. Now, you might be saying, hey, Milton, we follow an ABM model. They're not always leads. What if we work with contacts? Great question, Kurt. Same philosophy stands, right? Contact comes in. Contact is added to a Salesforce campaign. Now that contact is associated to a Salesforce opportunity, and the campaign gets credit. Ask any questions you might have in the chat. Okay. Now, if you're creating an opportunity, well, let's go down to potential points of failure here. This right here is marketing's job. Okay. So in Pardot or whatever marketing automation platform you have, every activity you want to get credit for, you have to have a completion action that automatically adds them to a campaign. Okay. Let's look at this webinar. Let's go super meta. I'm not supposed to be doing this, but like, let's talk about the campaign we have right now. Okay. Every time you filled out that form, you're getting added to a Salesforce campaign for this webinar registration. This is key. This is key. Anything you're doing that marketing is doing or ops is doing or sales is doing, and you do not know how it's being automatically being added to a Salesforce campaign, stop doing it till you know how to do it. I'm not in the business of doing work without getting credit, right? So make sure that every activity you're doing, you are tracking how you're getting an attribution. So one of the first things I do on every new account that gets assigned to us is I do a little bit of a worksheet where I go in. Let's see if I have a good example of it. Where is that? Well, anyway, I basically put together an Excel. I say, what are all the activities you're doing and how are we going to automatically add them to campaigns? Okay. If you don't know that, then you need to start thinking about that. Right? So I mean everything. Okay. So for example, we currently have a waitlist page on our website, and we want, and design and content spend a lot of time making that page on our actual WordPress website, not on a Pardot landing page or anything like that. We want to track how well, if somebody visits that page, what does that do for the conversion rate optimization or the attribution or the propensity to convert? So in Pardot, we've set up a page action that if they visit that page, they automatically get added to that campaign. Right? If you're going to a conference, you should be doing something that's called a kiosk form. Conferences are an attribution black hole. People spend so much money on events and they don't know, it's a lot of gut driven. Right? So we want to make sure that that we have a method of tracking that for everything. Okay. Now, we're going to have automation rules on pages. We're going to have automation rules on emails that we send out. We're going to have automation rules on PDFs, white papers, infographics, everything that you're producing. You want to make sure that you have a campaign associated with it. We're sending out a list email, our newsletter. Let's see if they're actually doing it. Boom. We have a completion action adding them to a Salesforce campaign every time they click on it. Cool. This is marketing's responsibility. Don't depend on, and this should be automated. Don't depend on anyone adding campaign members or anybody to campaigns manually. Cool. Let's go back to the deck here. Can you see the deck again? And I see your question, Linda. I'll answer it towards the end. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is not converting leads. By default, most marketing automation systems, especially Pardot and account engagement, anytime somebody fills out the form, if that email address does not exist in Salesforce, it automatically creates a lead record. A lot of times what sales reps do accidentally is that they will get that lead and they'll create a new contact for some reason. Well, I know why for some reason, because they're using the account object, right? Whenever you create all that attribution goodness, right? All those campaigns they're a part of are associated to the lead. So if you don't convert that lead into an opportunity and a contact, that attribution trail is now broken and you don't get credit for any of it. Okay. So make sure you're always converting. Okay. So let me show one of our internal leads here. Hit the convert button. right? Anytime there's a lead, it'll create the contact associated with the account and create the opportunity all at the same time. Native functionality. They made it really easy for a reason. That's another potential point of failure. Second is I create an opportunity and I'm not adding contact roles. Okay. Let me go here and open up an opportunity. Let me know if you ever don't see my screen again. Here's an opportunity. It's worth, this is our professional plan, someone's buying, and then you have our MRR there. And then we have the contact roles here. Alice, I knew you were going to be here. Look. And I'm the chief inspo officer. But here are the contact roles. If they're not doing this, remember, opportunities are where the money is stored. Their revenue. The contacts are where the campaign attribution is stored, the marketing effort. The way that they link, connect to each other, is by making sure that those contacts are added as contact roles to the opportunity. Okay? If they don't do this, you're done. Lost your attribution trail. Last option, not last option. One of the other things is not creating opportunities with discipline. What does that mean? That means a lot of times, great question. I see the questions. A lot of times what happens, right, is I will go into an organization and I will look at their pipeline, right, which you should be doing, even if you're in marketing or ops or any role. Let me see if I can have an example here. Do you see my Analytics Studio tab or dashboard? Thank you. Oh, fast learners here. Okay. I will look at a pipeline and I will see something like this, right? Where I see 51% of the deals on your pipe are closed won, or 70% or 80%. I'm looking for something around 30%. But Milton, our sales reps are so good that they're converting 70% of their deals into closed won. That's good. But also, a lot of times what that's an indication of is that you're leaving money on the table because they're not converting leads into ops early enough. Right? AKA, I don't want sales leadership to badger me about why this pipe is here and why it's not there and what's the close date and what's the band and all that. So I'm going to, what we used to call in the olden days, sandbag. I'm not going to create ops till I know they're going to close win or till it's further down the pipe. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that marketing is not even seeing attribution to 70% of the pipe potentially that's being created. Because there's two responsibilities here. One, marketing has to send deals to sales and sales has to move it down the sales funnel. We have to make sure that we have clear visibility to both sides of that accountability chain so we know which ones to optimize. So we need to make sure in a lot of organizations, one of the first things I do when I go in is I like to have a definition session, right? Does everybody know when an opportunity, when an opportunity is supposed to be created? What is the criteria? Has everybody aligned with it? Or is it, hey, some people do it when they have this, some people do it like this. You have to make sure that you're creating opportunities with discipline so that the data is actually statistically significant and you're not just throwing things against the wall. So if you don't have a one-pager somewhere that says, this is what an MQL is, this is what a lead is, this is what a SAL is, this is what an SQL is, this is what an opportunity is, this is what each stage of the opportunity, how they go from stage to stage. A definition sheet. Before you do any fancy stuff, before you buy another tool, spend some time today and make a one-pager. Make sure every department head has signed that one pager, so we all know what that is. It's not sexy stuff. If you want me to facilitate that conversation, please let me in. Cool? So that's the last thing right here on this slide, which is not creating opportunities with discipline. Now, how do we solve some of these potential points of failure? Discipline. There's an economic incentive on this side, so we don't really have to do much work. AKA, make sure that everything that you're doing that you want to get credit for, that you have a completion action that is adding them to a Salesforce campaign. Okay. Hold on a second. I think I got it. And this is the sheet I was talking about. Something like this. Let me show a better example, actually. Something with our actual things in it. Okay. So I have all the activities that I want to track, and I have a tracking method. Okay. So if it's a case study, we're using custom redirects. There's going to be different tools for different jobs, but think through it and make sure everything is being added. Okay. So completion actions and marketing efforts. Something like this should help you, and then just the discipline of doing it every time. Second is not converting leads. In Salesforce, you might need to talk to your admin about it. Or you probably know already because you faced it. There's something that's called duplicate rules. Make sure you have those set up. Okay? Basically, what that means is if somebody tries to create a new contact with the same email address that already exists on that lead, it won't let them. Or you can make it give you a little sign, red sign that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? But I like the don't let them way better. Okay, so set up the duplicate rules, and then you can also do reporting. So if you don't want to do the duplicate rules yet, maybe have your admin set up a report to show you the ones that were created that maybe match the email address of a contact with an opportunity associated. So the two levers that you have there to potentially solve that point of failure is going to be duplicate rules and reporting. The second is not associating contacts to opportunities. I'm a big fan of exception reports. What I mean by that is setting up a Salesforce report of opportunities without contact roles created last week. And in Salesforce, you can schedule reports to go out, right? So group them by sales rep, schedule it to go out to different stakeholders Monday morning, right? Any behavior that you want to encourage, you got to trust but verify, right? So if you set up a report like that, you don't have to do the whole send it out automatically, but at some point, people will want to stop showing up on those emails, right? Or you just do it yourself and have the report go to yourself. And if you can get, yep, Jessica, good, right? So Jessica is basically saying, don't even allow them to create contacts without, don't even allow them to create opportunities without a contact. Like make them go to the contact, right? In order to do that. I think that's a good thing too. There are hard-coded ways we could do this too. Like Jessica's saying, my exception report is on a dashboard we all review on Mondays. Man, some of y'all are on it. Exactly. Some of y'all have played this game and gotten burnt once or twice. So you've stopped leaving it up to chance. Awesome. Second, pipeline reviews. I am in marketing needs to get, and ops and everybody needs to get all in the business of pipeline reviews, right? AKA, if your sales leadership is doing pipeline reviews and you have a deal that's open that's $20,000, sometimes I wonder, when I used to run teams and I loved my pipeline reviews, the first question I would always ask is, hey, who are the stakeholders who you're going to be using to close this deal? How is there a $60,000 deal on the book or a $100,000 deal in LMV that has one person associated with it? You think you're going to close this deal with one person? Well, no, I actually have 3 other people that I've been talking to. Put them on the opportunity, right? There has to be this behavior that has to come from sales leadership too. So there has to be this part of pipeline reviews that they're using Salesforce in order to do that, right? Exception report, maybe you have a requirement. Maybe if it's over X amount of money, they have to have X amount of stakeholders associated with an opportunity. So this is that question that's coming up here. It was like, who should be added to the contact role, the contact who is in the sales process? I think sometimes, and I think sometimes it should also be people that you know that are going to be the signer. If you send out a contract and the signer is different from the person you have in the opportunity, me as a sales leader, yeah, maybe that person doesn't want you to directly talk to the ultimate decision maker. And I totally get that on a B2B extended sales cycle motion. They're not going to let you talk to the CMO or the CTO, but they should be added as a person that's influencing the opportunity. Right? And I'll show you why here in a second, because it offers so much insight to marketing now. Because now you can run drips and things like you can provide air cover for your sales reps with that information. Okay. Third thing is automation. If you want to automate this, you can. I like to let human beings do it first and then maybe automate in the background and not show them, because I want them to build that muscle memory. I want them to be involved. But you could also automate this with the Salesforce flow, AKA there are invisible influencers on an account that sales might not even know about that are influencing the deal. Okay. So how we usually like to do this is if there is a person on an account or a lead with the same email domain and they're part of a campaign and that account is part of an open opportunity and maybe the campaign member date is about 30 days or 60 days, you can create that attribution window. I want that person to be automatically associated with the opportunity. So the sales rep doesn't even have to do it. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll have a custom contact role, like it's called automatic addition or something like that, so that we can tell the difference between the ones that the sales reps added and the ones that were added through automation. That's another option for how to get through that potential point of failure. Okay. Last thing is more strategic, which is not creating opportunities with discipline. We have to have KPIs. We have to start measuring conversion rate into opportunities and pipeline goals, right? And marketing has to be involved with it. So there's downward pressure on that process too. Yes, Justin. Justin's saying the theme is we really need to be tying everything we can with opportunities. Yes. Feel free. Class dismissed. Go. No, I'm kidding. But yes, all revenues on opportunities. All revenues on opportunities. Okay. So make sure that you're using opportunities and then making sure all these steps happen here. Everything else is minutia after that. If you can get this part done, everything else is nuanced. Okay. So we got to make sure we have KPIs on conversion rate and pipeline creation every month. Okay. So we have to create some downward pressure, not just on closed winning opportunities, but opportunities created. We talked about pipeline reviews. We talked about defining what an opportunity is, making sure there's a unified definition there. And last option, which I really, 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 really hate, because it creates a lot of technical debt and, you know, I don't know, this creates some bad behaviors, but I know a lot of y'all, even in here, already has this, is automating the op creation at a certain point. But I don't like that. Okay. We won't get into the defining of the ops of the different things, the KPIs, but we kind of touched on it a little bit. But I'll share this so y'all can go back and look at it. Okay, so now we've talked about how we add people to campaigns. Then we talk about how do we add those campaigns to opportunities, right? Now let's talk about the different model types. Okay, I see your question, Christian. Good question. But let's talk about model types. Okay. If you are in Salesforce and you have Pardot, and if you don't, you can set this up manually, which is a little bit more complicated, but your admin can help you with that, right? I want you to go and I want you to do one thing today. In Salesforce, do you all see my Salesforce settings screen with the different model types? Yeah, perfect. I want you to make sure that all these model types are active. Just go, chick, 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 chick. Turn them on, right? And I'll explain these different model types for a second here. Okay. So primary campaign source model is the old, they used to call it Salesforce model. Data-driven model is if you have Pardot Advanced or higher, you get the data-driven model. Yes. Any option that you have here, check it off, right? There's no downstream impact to having more options. What you set as the default, you know, we can have that conversation, but there's no problem turning it on. So yes, turn on data-driven model too. Okay. Primary campaign source, I like the least, right? Primary campaign source is what were they a part of right before, or what was the first campaign they were a part of before they converted a lead into an opportunity? In the modern B2B or extended sales cycle model, or even ABM model, that is very silly. That only gives you such a myopic view of like what the real attribution is. And somebody could be in your database from like ZoomInfo or like some weird pull data source or like something random for years before they actually turn into a real legitimate opportunity. So I think this is kind of silly. I don't like it. First touch is and these now go into attribution windows. So basically the attribution window is usually, I think by default, 180 days. You can change that if you want. Right here, you can change the campaign influence time frame. Right? So, and you usually want to maybe stay around your sales cycle. So if somebody is part of an campaign 180 days, right, before that person is added to a opportunity, in the first touch model, the first campaign they were associated with gets 100% of the credit. Okay. First touch model is what was the first campaign within that 180-day time period that they were associated with, that gets 100% of the credit. Last touch is what was the last campaign they were a part of before it closed one. That's going to get 100% of the credit. Even distribution is they were a part of 4 or 5 different campaigns, and each one gets even credit. Okay. So let me show you an example here. So here's my opportunity here for professional plan. It's worth $9,000. Right? And there's 2 contact roles associated with it. So everybody's done amazing things, right? These contacts, if I go into it, they have opportunity, they have campaigns associated with it. Is it not on the contact? Imagine there's a thing here that says all the campaigns they were a part of. So they have campaigns associated with it. Because this contact is associated with this opportunity, now all the campaigns they are a part of now show up here as influence, and they're a part of a lot. They show up as influence on the, and this is not a good example because we're an internal user. They show up as influence here. This is actually a good example of making sure you don't have too many campaigns because now you have too much noise and you can't tell the signal, right? But our default is the even distribution model, meaning that when I pop up this attribution widget component, it's giving even distribution of the opportunity to every campaign that it's a part of. Now I can go to my social media campaign and I can see, hey, what is the revenue share in total of all the opportunities associated with that? That's even distribution model. I like it a lot, especially with extended sales cycles, etc. Yes, you will get the deck and the recording, so don't worry about that. Right? I like that even distribution model. Okay. If you like the data-driven model, is like AI, quote unquote, kind of thing, Einstein, quote unquote stuff. Basically, what it does is it just black boxes, and it just decides what it thinks should get more credit and less credit. And then you can build your own attribution models if you want. But I would say in general, I like starting with the even distribution and then figuring out the outliers and then reverse engineering from there. Now, someone's having a question here. Which model should I use? Well, this is the beautiful thing. You don't have to decide. You can use all of them. Right? So there's a report that I want you to run. It's a default report once you turn those on. If you don't have access to it, ask your Salesforce admin. Feel free to take a screenshot, but it'll also be in your recording. This right here. Campaigns with influenced opportunities, whatever these things are called, customizable campaign influence. This is the report you're looking for, and it's a standard report. Okay. When you go here and you create this report, it's going to show you all the opportunities and the campaigns they were a part of, and the percentage breakdown. Now, you can go in here and you can select what model you want to see. Right? So what I like to do is build a dashboard and then have different components on the dashboard. One says multi-touch. One says first touch, one says last touch. One says data-driven. Oh, geez, now I get end-to-end visibility and I can see what is driving what behavior. There are certain campaigns that are actually pushing top funnel, initial things. There are certain campaigns that are pushing bottom funnel to close win. And there's some that are just influencing to go from stage to stage. So you don't have to select which one you want to use. You can just use all of them. And everything I'm showing you is default out of the box. So there's nothing special that I'm doing that we've built or anything like that. Okay. So yes, you're right. You don't have to decide, but when you're looking at the data, you want to look at the data with that bias in mind. If I use first touch, this is what it's saying. If I'm using last touch, this is what I'm saying. Cool. And then sometimes you just want to overlay your white space high value ABM accounts and just trigger by that, right? And just say which campaigns are actually influencing which types of opportunities and which accounts of opportunities. Cool. I'm going to pause there since we have about 13 minutes there. So I went over all the major components here, which is what is the relationship between all of these objects? What are sales responsibilities? What is marketing responsibilities? What are the things that could potentially fail? And then what are some reports and dashboards you can build? Okay. And the different attribution types. This zoomed by for me. I wanted to give everybody a taste of like what we do when we go into an account, and we, you know, basically on our subscription model, we come in and we set all of this up for you, and we just give you the end result, which is the dashboards and the attribution and the journeys and the content and the dynamic content and all that stuff. If you want a demo, feel free to book one. If you book a demo and you're on this webinar, I will be the one giving you your demo. So if you want to chat, that's a great way to use that as an excuse. So our conversion rate numbers look good. I am going to pause there now, and I am going to see if anybody has any questions in the last 13 minutes. Try to make it about anything that we've talked about here. But if nobody raises their hand, then I can just answer any random questions you have to. So, yeah. Go ahead. There's a little hand raise icon in there. Or if nobody raises your hand, feel free to just yell at me. Somebody started off. Anybody doing this, but maybe not get, you think you're doing this, but you're not actually seeing the results? You're not seeing it on the other side, the dashboard or anything like that? Everybody's leaving now. They're like, nope, I have no questions. Okay, cool. Yep. Oh, that's it. Okay. Bye, Brian. Thanks for having your camera on. If nobody has any questions, maybe I'll show you some cool extra bonus stuff. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and I will stop. Oh, here, we got a question. Cindy, if there are multiple contacts per op, is the attribution modeling recording all campaigns every contact is associated with? Yes, it is. You're right, Cindy. So if you have multiple people, it'll add all of the people. Okay. Now, somebody asked about campaign member statuses and such. You can go in here and you can customize this as much as you want. You can get very myopic in it, right? In the filter criteria, you can go in here and you can set like very like specific kind of things, right? Like it has to be this campaign member status. It has to be this type of campaign. You can get, your Salesforce admin or your SLX license can really help you set this up as much as you want, right? Can we see customer journey involvement with campaigns throughout the conversion funnel? Yes, let me show you this, right? I am very surprised at how much people don't have the data surfacing up appropriately. So if I go to an account, there is a out of the box thing here. Let me see if I can have a good example here. We like to call it the ABM, Flex ABM Insights, but it's out of the box. You can set it up on your component. So here's our SalesLabX account. Imagine I'm a sales rep that's about to call this account to close a deal. If I go right here in this component, and my internet doesn't misbehave, this is every contact at that account and all the marketing activities and sales activities and website activities every contact in that account is done. You own this, right? You already have this, right? If I'm working with Lynn at SalesLabX and I've never heard of Stephanie, and remember, this is on the account level, even before the opportunity is created or anything. You don't have to add them as contact members or anything like that. This is an invisible influencer that marketing has been marketing to, that have been added to webinars, that have been coming to conferences, that have been downloading content that the sales rep knows nothing about. This is out of the box. It's free. You own it. Put it on the component, right? So when we say, like, we come in and we set that component up for you, you don't have to get an SLX subscription. Usually what ends up happening is the Salesforce admin might know this. The marketing person might know that this data exists. The sales rep is saying, hey, I wish I knew what marketing was doing, but no one's really breaking all of those silos together. And then imagine fighting for sales admins bandwidth to try to get this implemented. But this is something that's awesome. I love it, right? And then now I can say, okay, Stephanie, let's dig into Stephanie a little bit. Internet's very slow, right? And so let's go, give it up. Or I want to see all the website activity. I want to break it down by email opens. What is the most popular email open? What is the most popular website they visited, right? Was there a jump in engagement, which there was around a certain time. What happened there? When I go to the opportunity level, could you share how you get that? Yes, Justin, why not? Since y'all are bonus people. Let me just show you literally how to do it. So nobody gatekeeps y'all and says it's a whole big deal. Okay. I'm going to the page layout. If you're not an admin, you might not have access to that. All you're doing is there's a component called engagement history dashboard. You're just dragging it where you want. Boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Done. Google review. Or you know what? What's that thing called that nobody ever leaves reviews on because you got to log in? G2. Give me a good G2 review. But yeah, done. You got it. Right? And this is out of the box. You got it, right? I have the same thing on the opportunity level. So if I'm a sales rep and I am working an opportunity, and that opportunity is ghosting me, and I want to give personalized content, I can go to the opportunity level and I have the same component on there, and it tells me everybody that it drills it down to everybody on the opportunity. Right? So I have the same thing there, but this time it just filters down only these people. This is why it's so easy when we come in and we win, because it's like, look, boom, win, everybody's happy. So that's one thing that I like a lot, is adding those components, but to the views where the data is actually accessible. What else do I like a lot? I love even dashboards, bringing all the Pardot data and dashboards on campaign performance, like subject line performance, into Salesforce. So you can see here, we have our top highest performing subject lines, like easily laid out here. Right. So I like this a lot, which is bringing engagement data here. You see, like my big thing is like breaking these silos down and putting all of these things together. So that I like a lot too. Yeah, there's a whole new thing that's called pipeline inspection in Salesforce. It's free. It's really cool. If you see that, I like it. Yeah, that's it. I think we got 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Ben, if you want to push Google ad data to Salesforce, is there an easy or recommended solution API? Yeah, so I don't like you pushing Google Analytics data to, well, I'm supposed to be positioning things better, but like, my recommendation is you use the tools. Like Google Analytics has a core area of proficiency for website traffic. I don't want you to send, because people ask us all the time, I want all the Google Analytics data inside of Salesforce. But I think one of the benefits to an SLX subscription is we say no a lot of times, or we say, hey, have you thought about this? And that pushback is important. So rather than pushing Google Analytics data to Salesforce, and I can go into a whole thing of why you shouldn't do that, I would rather you push Salesforce data to Google Analytics. Okay? Oh, Google ad data is different. Okay, so let me see, Google Analytics. So I will put it in here, but there is none of this costs any money. Everything I showed you today is free. I don't like donating money to any of these app people any more than we need to. So here is what I think you should do instead of sending Google Analytics data to Salesforce. I think you should send Salesforce data as conversion goals or data sets to Google Analytics. Jeez Louise. Cool, and I put that chat in there. I see custom influence models. It's not that complex, but you do need to have some. It's not as easy as those ones that are out of the box. Those are pretty easy to set up. I need to just get some tape for this power thing. Cool. Any questions, comments? 3 minutes left. Don't make me pitch you a subscription. Cool. I'm giving up on my camera. Y'all know how I look. Awesome. Cool. What else? Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Oh, actually, one last thing. If you're doing ABM, I love it's free. I love the Clearbit logo API. Right? If you got a campaign from us with this, sorry for whoever set it up, but basically imagine a landing page and the landing page has their logo on the top and their name. Right? So this is what this does. It basically just dynamically puts in their logo into landing pages, email websites, anything like that. I think it's really clean for, if you design it the right way, it's really clean for ABM models. And then you can attribute it. You can attribute that page and see how well it converts. I understand would need UTM tracking on all Google AdWords, but more about understanding how to push through to Salesforce or tracking ad data. Okay. Okay, I am going to talk about UTMs. If you spend a lot of money on ads, because it takes a little bit of engineering work, right? What I like to do is I like to set up a special UTM parameter in my Google ads or wherever I'm spending the ad spend, Facebook or retargeting or whatever. I like to create a hidden field on forums that's called SF campaign. Okay, imagine a hidden field. And then in my UTM parameters, I add a new UTM parameter, which is basically the Salesforce campaign ID. Okay. Now, every time I click enter on that form, that Salesforce campaign ID gets put into that hidden field. That gets sent to Salesforce in the leader contact with that campaign ID, that Salesforce campaign ID. Now we set up a flow in Salesforce to automatically take that leader contact and automatically associate them to that Salesforce campaign as a campaign member. Yes. Go ahead, Brian. Did you raise your hand or did you say yes? Okay, thank you. All right, that's it. I tried to fit a lot in the last 3 minutes. You will be getting a demo link. If you want to chat with me more, book the demo. I'll give you a full demo, but basically we do what we just did, but we'll come in there and actually do it with you without ever having to worry about who's going to handle this for you. Thank y'all. Come back next time. Bye.